Hi Paul, just doing a bit of a catch up. Well, I've taken the top chassis out of this thing and I'm just having a look inside here. It's the radio tuner of the big philco. Now, good news and some bad news. The good news is it's been totally unmessed with. No one's tried to muck around with it. Everything is basically, from what I can see, original. There's just one area I think they were making a start. Someone was going to pull that capacitor block out. That's a capacitor block. It's screw it there, and it comes out, and there's big black waxy tar under it, and there's a couple of caps in there. Sometimes one cap, you got to look up what it is. In philco, there's a set of numbers, you got to go and look it up and then replace with the proper caps. Well, you can see here it's all been unsoldered. So someone was having a go, was going to restore it, and it sort of got to that point and it's been stopped. I don't know how long. I suspect it's now the people that I got it off tried to fire it up, which was stupid. Okay. You can see all these wax caps. They're all shot for sure. And as soon as they tried to start it up, let alone the fact that this was all disconnected, so the power wouldn't go through properly anyway. These capacitors won't act like capacitors and will just act like resistors and pass current through, and that's not good. And with a closer look, you can see some of these carbon resistors here are fried. You can see how that one's lost its colour. It's got hot, and there's a slight burny smell under here, so that worries me. Okay, I hope they haven't fried any coils or anything. Then there's another one there. See, that one there's gone. All these wax capacitors and resistors I can replace. Okay, that's not a problem, and I will talk a bit about that when I work my way through them. I do that anyway. I replace them all. And these breaker-like blocks, this radio has 3 of them, which is surprisingly a few considering philcos generally have quite a few in their chassis, so they're going away from them by the time they got to this 1938 model. So there's one there, and there's 2 under there, and I'm terrified to look under there considering what I found here. I'm hoping that it's all okay under there. No one has tried to Mickey Mouse around with it. I'll have to have a look. Someone's put a new dial on there. The back part's a bit shot, but all that needs to come off, so that like I'll put that away, and then it'll just free up a bit of space, because it's quite a sensitive piece, that dial. That so-called magic tuning, I'll take it all apart and put it away. They'll just unbolt. Yeah, so unmolested except for there. I've gone online and looked at the schematics and stuff, and I've figured out, see, these are wire tie points, all right, and I figured out, there's that's a couple here that was all bent over there. It was all over the show. It was a complete mess, and I've tracked it all through, and I've worked out what goes where. For example, this one here, it's unused, so that wouldn't have had. This one's got some old solder on it, so odds are this mica cap here went onto there. This wire, this solder lug here was unused, so there's two sort of coming out of here, so I can track the wires. I think those two went there. This resistor went on there. I'll have to dig around and see if there's any other bits and pieces that I've missed. This weird looking resistor and mica cap, it's been twisted around each other and goes in. It's pretty ho-ho looking. It's actually factory. Okay. Philco were individually hand making these to order, so the manufacturing quality is going to be probably interesting, to put it politely. But you can see, I mean, look at this exposed wires here, Paul. I mean, for God's sake. Okay, the new caps are a lot smaller than this. I'll do a whole thing on capacitors. Some people get these radios, they'll take this out, gut it, and put a modern cap in it, and put it back together, so to try and make it all look original under there. I don't believe in that. I think it's pointless, because at the end of the day, who pulls a radio out and looks underneath it, And secondly, if something broke down in the years to come and somebody yips it out, pulls it out and has a look, and you've got all these old looking caps here, they'll think it's all old caps and need to be replaced. So I won't be doing that. This centerpiece here, like your coils, I hope he hasn't fried it by running it with those, by plugging it in. If there's too much power going through, they can blow all these coils here. They're very fragile. I did do a quick test, and it did register as this, that they were okay. But I will need to do a full measure and make sure they're okay. Hopefully there won't be too many burnies that they didn't have it on long enough. I'm really a bit concerned, because this is one complex radio. Okay, this is just the radio. Like I say, there's the separate power chassis. That's with two power banks and stuff. I've been figuring out. Spending a lot of time the last weeks or so studying how this thing actually works, and putting a bit of time in, making notes and bits and pieces, and seeing how it comes together. It's definitely one nice radio, and if I can get this puppy going, I feel very proud of myself. So I'll just sort of box on. I'm in two minds. I am tempted to a point to I should just replace that, gut that plastic capacitor block, put new caps in, reattach all these wires, plug it back together, and when the two new rectifiers arrive, just carefully bring it up on my Variac and let it slowly come to life and see whether or not I can get some life out of it. There's a lot of people that won't do that, but I've always, if you're careful, like this guy's just come in, whoever had this, and just plugged it in straight at the mains. You don't do that. He's cooked it. He may have done some damage, but it's not going to matter a hell of a lot. Because either way, I will get this working. I don't care how long it takes. All these coils are bad in here. I might just have to hunt down a new RF block for it. It's called the RF block. It's like this. You got your interstage IF RF block, and then your amplifier stage down the bottom here, which sets everything up and then sends it down into the power chassis, which is also further amplification there. And it's got massive push-pull valves and these 6L6s, so this thing must have been bloody loud in its day. I've put these in because I was just having it, remember I just had it sitting there quietly when I first got it and undid everything. I may glue those in temporarily and then just put it in and out a few times and then trim these back to make that fit perfectly, so that the machine will sit flat like this, even, and then come through like that. Then what you do, you have the back up a little bit, so you can see how it goes up, so that when the knobs come through and they come through the front, they come out as though they're straight. Okay, so that's what you do. You'll like these might have to, like I might have to chop these down a little bit, but that's in the years to come. These wires are shot. I'm going to have to probably replace. Those are the speaker wires. There's one on each side, and then there's the main wire there to the big speaker kahuna under there. I haven't tested any valves and stuff. I've just been doing some notes and stuff. I'll show you that. I'll show you what I do. It's just a matter of taking my time. This could be a year-long restoration, to be all honest. I've got cloth wire coming, proper cloth wire, proper gauged, that will match this, all the wiring in here. So if there's any wiring that I don't like the look of, I'll replace it with original looking wire, as much as I can, and make sure all the wire dressing is okay. But these, I am pleased that it's still basically original, because that's going to give me a shot at like these things here. See? And you see how they got a band on them? Well, that's your positive, your negative end. So these electrolytics have a positive and a negative end. The negative end is what they call the shielded end, and that is the outside foil. This end here, the foil of the capacitor, the outside, is connected to this side of the cap. So what does that mean? Well, for shielding purposes, and we'll talk a bit about that in another time, these caps have got to go in one way. Yeah, this cap, you see it's there, this cap's there, that's the negative end, and it goes to a tie point, and then the positive end goes somewhere. Okay, when you're replacing, you've got to put the caps in the same way, the negative and the positive. New caps don't tell you what is the negative and the positive, and I'll tell you why a bit later and what we do about it too. You can work it out. I'll show you what we do. Okay, I use an oscilloscope over there and what have you. I can make something as a capacitor tester if I wanted to tell me which is the outside foil end, but I just use the oscilloscope, and I'll show you what I do when I get caps. Now, read about caps. You know, these caps aren't anything unusual. You know, they're 0.1s, 0.2. These banded caps. Okay, 0.27s, 0.3, 0.03, 0.01, 0.1. Nothing unusual. You can get them. The most important thing is the rated voltage that they fail at. Now, these things have it written on them. You can see it's about 400 volts. Most modern caps that you use to replace these have a higher voltage rating of 600 volts, 650 volts. It's good. Okay, the bigger the voltage rating, the better. Like this one says 400 DC working volts, see DCWV. 400 volts. That's, if you're going to put a new cap in, it's got to at least be able to handle 400 volts. Normally they put in twice the working voltage, so there's about 200 volts floating around in here. So they double load it, so that's got 400. So it's well within spec, you know what I mean? So it's not going to blow up when you turn it on. The caps I have are 650 volts, and you know they only cost about 80 cents. Yeah, you know. So if I was to use all the standard caps that are, just modern replacements. You're only looking at about $20 worth of electronic components to replace all this. It's the time involved. It takes time. That's where the time is. So, but I'm not going to use 600 volt working caps, all right? Because given the size of this radio, the number of valves, so there's 18 valves on this chassis here. I'm going to, and I've ordered in special caps for this. That's 1600 volt working volts. So way over, 3 times over the stated voltage. I want what I replace it with. I want it to last indefinitely. Okay, it's never to get because valve radios can spike a little bit in the way they work. They can get voltage spikes across these terminals and things under there. They can temporarily spike the voltage up. Some of the other valves and where they are more prone to it. I'll get into that a little bit later, like these ones down here. And the rectifier side can really get some high voltage. I've got 1600 volt replacements for what's under there coming. Some guys would put 3 kilovolt caps in, massive, thousands and thousands. Good 10 times over the rated voltage, and what the philco calls for. Why? Because rectifiers can be notorious for spiking as well. So it's all just been very careful and taking our time and just sort of making sure that the thing is going to work. So my thoughts are, I'll wait for the caps to come, replace, gut this, I'll show you that, I'll pull this out and you can have a look. Put the new caps in, rewire this in, and I might just plug it all in carefully, and I'll bring it up on my Variac, which is just down under there. And I'll keep the voltage right down, and I'll keep an eye on the current draw and stuff, and see if, and I'll current limit it so it can't fail, and see if I can't get it working. It'll tell me if there's any damage anyway. But I'll keep the voltage right down on it. I am really... I can try and reform these caps. There's a trick you can do to get them to work again. You can run some current through them and just let it cook away quietly, and they can sometimes come back to life. Like you put them on, 30 volts AC, and you walk away, and because that's really low, it's not going to do any damage. It's not going to fire up the valves, but it will get enough current juice and AC flowing around on these caps to reform them a little bit, and then you can bring them back to life. So that's what I'll do, just to try and get something out of it, and just to see what it sounds, where it's at. I always like a base point to work with. The worst base point you can work with, Paul, is one that doesn't, where your radio doesn't work. Hey, my very first restoration, that Silvertone, it was like that. It was stuffed. So I didn't have a base point to work with, so I just had to go for it, sort of blind. And fortunately, it kicked into life. A lot of people fail when they do their first restoration. Anyway, yeah, that'll do for now. I'll post some more stuff. I want to have a chat about some bits and pieces, sort of some radio. Some radio jargon and bits of and what I want to do, so just to keep you in the loop, as it were. Good night, buddy.